Hello everyone and welcome to Cinderful Gaming. I hope you're all doing well, I hope you're all staying safe, and most of all, I hope you're all fighting that war against the Grey. Today we have another Start Collecting Age of Sigmar 3rd edition video for you, and today we're going to be looking at the Start Collecting box Skaven Pestilens for the Skaven army. Now, this particular box set focuses on one of the many clans that make up the Skaven army. You have 4 greater clans that are sort of your bulk of your army, which are Pestilens, Moulder, Eshin, and Scry. And in this particular box set, we look at a clan Pestilens themed army. That's going to be the general theme we're going to look for through the whole video. Everything's going to be Pestilens themed in this video, and so we're going to look to start off building a Skaven Pestilens army. And so let's start with looking at the contents of the box. For starters, you can see here in the picture we've got a Plague Furnace pictured, but that box set is also a dual kit with the Screaming Bell. Now, this is an interesting thing with how the Skaven allegiance works. Master clan units, which are your Graciers and Vermin Lords, do not actually break your clan allegiance and won't stop you taking other units within your Master Clan within your army, and they won't break that allegiance, meaning you can still be a Clan Pestilens army and include Master Clan units. So this particular dual kit can actually be built as either to make a full Clan Pestilens army. However, I do recommend to start off with building the Plague Furnace. The Plague Furnace has a Plague Priest on it, which is cool. So Priest got a nice big buff in the latest edition. You've got a whole bunch of extra prayers you can make use of. In particular, Curse is really nice because the Plague Monks, as we'll talk about, have a lot of attacks. But also the Plague Furnace itself can do a ton of damage. It is an absolute wrecking ball, as you might think, looking at the fact it's got a giant wrecking ball on it. Looking at the Plague Monks next, these are an important unit in the army. The Plague Furnace and the Screaming Bell, in fact, cannot move on their own and need Skaven units around them to haul them into battle. 20 Plague Monks will surely be sitting around that Plague Furnace, pushing it into battle and doing all the dirty work. They're also not too bad in combat either. While they don't have many defensive buffs, they do put out a load of attacks, and as I mentioned, the Curse Prayer is particularly effective with them. You've also got some great other prayers like Rabid as well that come on the Plague Furnace itself that really give you a ton of versatility here. The Plague Furnace can have a lot of prayers stacked onto the one model. It can give you a ton of versatility and use on how you want to do it and how you want to buff up those Plague Monks depending on what you're fighting. The last kit inside this box here is another dual kit, and this is a Plague Claw Catapult and a Warp Lightning Cannon. Unlike the Screaming Bell, the Warp Lightning Cannon is most certainly not a Master Clan unit. In fact, it's a unit from Clan Scryer, so I wouldn't recommend building it out of the starting of this box unless you're planning to go get some Clan Rats straight off the bat as well. The Plague Claw Catapult shoots and generally does damage to larger units. It does more damage and hits better against those bigger units, so it's generally a horde killer, which is really good because you've got the ability to take out heavy infantry with just a sheer amount of attacks from those Plague Monks and also the Plague Furnace's mortal wounds. Plague Claw Catapult can deal with opposing enemy hordes really nicely. And so before we get moving on to looking to what units to add to our Skaven Pestilens army, let's look at the scenery first, and then we'll go look at the endless spells next, and then we'll come back and look at what units we can use to expand our force. So the scenery model we have for the Skaven is called the Norhole. In fact, it is 3 separate scenery pieces that you deploy around the edge of the battlefield. What these scenery pieces do is they allow you to move the Skaven units between them, so long as you've got a Skaven hero near the one that you're entering from. You don't need one near the one you're exiting from, but you do need one near the one you enter from. They also have the benefit of adding 1 to the casting, dispelling, and unbinding rolls of friendly Skaven wizards nearby them, and also add 1 to your chanting rolls for nearby Skaven priests. So really nice benefits here, you know, a lot more extra movement, getting those hordes around the table and just being able to fight in different places that you might otherwise not be able to get to, and also just some nice bonuses to your wizards to cast and your priests to prayer as well. It also does a little bit of extra damage to enemy units that end up moving, running, retreating near it. So all in all, a really nice, great scenery piece that does a lot for your army. And so next we have the Endless Spells. These might be worth looking at, particularly if you chose to build the Screaming Bell for the initial starting kit. Now, Skaven have 3 Endless Spells of their own. Like many armies, they are pretty similar in this respect. 2 of their Endless Spells are predatory, and 1 is a stationary but offensively based endless spell. For starters, we have Vermintide. This is the teeming hordes of rats. It's a predatory endless spell and does mortal wounds both when it moves around and also when enemy units move near it. So it can be a great piece to place around the table to sort of make sure your opponent doesn't want to move too close to it, sort of block up the board. It has more use than just dealing damage. The fact its threat can be, if your opponent lands near it, is going to take some damage, is a nice thing to have on the table. The Warp Lightning Vortex is one of the most feared endless spells across the entirety of Warhammer Age of Sigmar. Even with some of the apparent nerfs it's received, it's still amazing to use. It's a 3-part endless spell that sets up in sort of a triangular formation. It can't set up near enemy models though, any of one of the pillars that is, not the inside. But what it has to do is it sort of sets up in that triangle formation 1 inch away from all enemy models of all the bases of it, and then units inside it start taking wounds both in after it's set up and at the end of every movement phase. And in addition to that, units cannot run or fly nearby it. So it's a really versatile endless spell to have access to for your army. Lastly, we have the Bell of Doom. As you might have guessed, this is the giant bell. It's a predatory endless spell, and effectively it rolls around trying to roll a 13 on 3 dice before it eventually explodes and does a bunch of mortal wounds when it does so. However, it does also make your Skaven units nearby not take battleshock tests, which is really great, and it also makes your opponent -1 bravery. So really good buffs and debuffs there, and the potential to do some little damage as well is really nice. And so, though, where can we go to get some more units into our army for our Skaven Pestilens army? For starters, let's talk a little bit about Plague Monks. Plague Monks are great. They're pretty much your baseline infantry, and there's lots of ways you can kit them out. They can either have the 2-hand weapon option, which gives them more attacks, though they don't get as good a range, or you can have the 1 photoed blade and the Plague Staff, and this gives them the extra range. Particularly, this second weapon option build is pretty good when you're going in larger units, so 30-man units. If you're going in 20s, I'd always recommend building up your dual blades. Otherwise, Plague Sensor Bearers are another interesting unit to bring to the army. They do a nice little bit of damage, and while they haven't got, I guess, the major output of your Plague Monks, they do have instant mortal wound when enemy units are nearby them. They start taking mortal wounds from the Plague Furnace's sensor around them, as they sort of, make your opponents breathe toxic gas. We then have Plague Priests, which, as mentioned, Priests just got a whole bunch of buffs in the latest edition, so definitely some units you want to think about bringing into your army is another couple of extra Priests to get more prayers out of your army. While you can, say, for instance, get a lot of prayers stacked onto your Plague Furnace, it can't actually use them all, so it's worth having those few extra little Plague Monks, or Plague Priests rather, around the place to be able to get off more prayers and just do more stuff for your army. Things like heal to heal up your bigger units are really nice as well, to give you that little bit extra healing. And a curse, as we mentioned at the start of the video, is just great on a ton of your units. Master Clan is the next thing I'd look at suggesting. This includes the Verminlords and the Grey Seers. None of these will break your pure Clan Pestilens allegiance, but what they will do is give you some extra tools to the game. For starters, a ton of them are all wizards, so this is going to give you magic to add to your priests, which is really nice. The Verminlord Corruptor is perhaps the thematic choice to add to your army, and he can do some pretty nice damage with his Plague Reapers. And you've also got access to a ton of good dual casters in the Grey Seers as well, who are pretty decent casters for their points cost. The Screaming Bell also can put out a nice immune to battleshock aura and can do some other nifty things as well. Lastly though, if you're looking to expand into Skaven and you want to get into different sort of factions within the Skaven, Clan Rats are definitely going to be a unit that you want to look into. These are your baseline infantry, and really, I think any person who wants to play 2,000 point games with Skaven should paint up at least 60 Clan Rats. This is going to give you the baseline amount of Clan Rats you need to play an army with, and you won't need to do this at start. I mean, if you're wanting to play 750 points and just play with whatever you want, 20 Clan Rats will suffice. If you want 1,000, you're going to need 2, and then 3 if you're going up to any bigger games. Clan Rats, just a nice baseline unit. They've got some cool rules on them like retreat and charge, and they also can put out a nice amount of attacks with their spears, so Curse can once again work really well on them. But this just allows you to explore the rest of the Skaven faction rather than just continuing to play a pure Clan Pestilens army until the end of your days. So it is really worth having a look into them and just see what you can do and how you can play in different variations. It's a great sort of gateway into the rest of the Skaven force. But lastly, what we have here for you is a little sample army list we've put together for Skaven Pestilens. This is going to come up at 745 points. It's going to be a nice little 750 point game army for you to start out your Clan Pestilens journey with. For starters, obviously, playing Skaven, playing Clan Pestilens, and our leader is going to be the Plague Priest on Plague Furnace. That's going to be our general. He's going to have the command trait Master of Rotten Ruin, which allows him to reroll his prayer rolls. This is nice. It means there's less chance of inviting the wrath of gods upon you and taking those mortal wounds. He's going to have the artifact Liber Bubonicus, and what this does is actually gives him access to the Plague Priest's prayers. So the on-foot Plague Priest is going to have all the prayers of that model. So this is nice. In addition with the prayer, he gets to pick which we're going to choose. Curse, though heal is definitely worth a look in here as well. Or even guidance, which could give you extra command points. All of them are really great, in all honesty. I don't think there's a bad choice there. You've got all these different abilities here that you can bring, and this guy's just going to have a lot of versatility upon the battlefield. Battle line wise, we've gone for a unit of 20 Plague Monks and 2 units of 10 Plague Monks. This is pretty sort of basic here. All of these are going to be sort of armed with your Photed Blades, the dual weapons, and you're probably going to have the 20-man unit rocking around with your Plague Furnace being your main damage dealer in the army. Meanwhile, the other 2 units of 10 Plague Monks can roam around catching objectives, fighting against smaller units and all that sort of stuff, picking off stragglers, etc. At the back, we're going to have a Plague Claw Catapult. This is going to be launching and trying to deal with opposing hordes, so we're not going to have to deal with them with our big block, so we're going to be fighting the things we want to fight. For the Triumph, I think Bloodthirsty is nice. This is going to make sure we can get those charges off, because really, this is going to be useful in the fact that generally you're going to want to charge a Plague Furnace and those Plague Monks that are around him in the same turn, so you don't have access to spend 2 command points there, and if you ever needed to, say you had to spend that reroll originally on, say, the Plague Furnace charging first, and then all of a sudden your Plague Monks fail, you have Bloodthirsty there if you've managed to get your Triumph. It's only 5 points, but you never know. Grand strategy, hold the line. This means at least some of our Plague Monks have to survive the battle. Generally, this is going to be the way it has to be anyway, because if you don't have Plague Monks, that Plague Furnace isn't moving, so in that case you've probably already lost, so you want to make sure you're having some of those battle line kept alive. I'd love to know everyone's thoughts on this though, and how are you building up and playing a Skaven army in the new edition, especially Skaven Pestilens. Let us know in the comments below. Well, thank you all for watching the video. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Also, while you're at it, why not come chat more with us on Discord? We've got a link in the description of the video below to our Discord server. You can come chat with me and other members of our fine little community here at Sinful Gaming. Lastly, we'd like to give a shout out to everyone who helps support the channel in various different ways. First of all, to our Patreon members, Christian Weir, James Soren, Chaos Spawn, AJC, Kenny Lowe, Outer and Shot First, James Crowder, Andrew Bowen, Nathan Fee, Tim Newman, The Rising Ape, Cure Dynamic, Agu, Anthony B, MJ, and Dyna226. Thank you to, as well, our YouTube members, Green Roots Gaming, Fire Titan, Steve T, The Real Zeot, Chris Wallace, Turriot12, Vinny, and Loch Lorick. And a special thanks to our artist who does all the channel art for us, Lady Witchfox Art, thank you very much. And to our Discord moderator, Xmorphic, you do a fantastic job on Discord for us as well. Thank you all, everyone, for watching. If you'd like to help support on Patreon or YouTube member, or help support the channel in another way, you can do so by following one of the links in the description of the video to Patreon or YouTube members, or go buy some Sinful Gaming merch from our Teespring store, also linked in the video's description. That's it for today, everyone. Thank you again. Stay safe, stay well, and most of all, keep fighting that war against the Grey. Ciao for now.